Haven. Even the name felt heavy, like a whispered secret in the dead of night. It was a place where the air itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something to break the stillness. Shadows stretched long and gnarled, swallowing the last rays of sun. They crept along the ground, twisting and turning as if alive, creating a tapestry of darkness that seemed to tell a story of its own. Buildings stood hunched, their windows like vacant eyes. These structures, once full of life and laughter, now stood as silent sentinels, guarding the secrets of the past. A silence, thick and unsettling, blanketed the town. It was the kind of silence that pressed against your ears, making you hyper-aware of every creak and rustle. But beneath the silence, there were whispers, faint, ethereal voices that seemed to rise from the very cobblestones. They carried tales of old, of promises broken and dreams shattered. They spoke of forgotten things, of shadows that moved with a life of their own. These whispers were like ghostly fingers, reaching out to those who dared to listen. The whispers were a warning, a siren's call luring the unsuspecting into the heart of Haven's darkness. They beckoned with a promise of secrets revealed, but at a price. Few dared to speak of the town's secrets, and those who did seldom found an audience willing to listen. The fear of what lay beneath the surface was too great, the risk too high. For Haven held a darkness that clung to the soul, a chilling truth that refused to be ignored. It was a place where the past and present intertwined, creating a web of mystery and dread. The whispers were just the beginning. They were the first hint of the deeper, darker secrets that lay hidden in the heart of Haven, waiting to be uncovered by those brave enough to seek them out. Every night, as the clock chimed midnight, a solitary bus lumbered into view. Its headlights cut through the perpetual twilight that shrouded Haven, momentarily pushing back the encroaching darkness. The bus was old, its paint peeling, windows etched with a film of grime that obscured the faces of its passengers. It was known simply as the last bus. Its destination was a mystery to most, a whispered legend spoken of in hushed tones. Some said it carried lost souls. Others claimed it was a one-way ticket to oblivion. But on this night, the last bus to Haven would have one more passenger, one who would come to know the town's secrets all too well. Evelyn stood at the crossroads, the weight of her past heavy on her shoulders. She was lost, searching for something she couldn't quite name. As the midnight hour approached, a figure emerged from the swirling mist, tall and gaunt, with eyes that glittered in the darkness. He spoke with a voice like dry leaves rustling in the wind. "Haven," he rasped, holding out a gnarled hand towards the approaching bus. "It's what you seek." Evelyn hesitated, a flicker of unease dancing in her chest. But the stranger's words resonated with a strange familiarity, a pull she couldn't explain. With a deep breath, she boarded the bus, stepping into the unknown. The bus rumbled to life, its engine groaning like a beast awakened from a long slumber. The sound was almost primal, echoing through the empty streets as if announcing their departure to the world. The air inside was thick with the scent of dust and decay, a suffocating silence pressing in on all sides. The seats, once vibrant, were now faded and torn, remnants of a time long past. The few other passengers sat huddled in the shadows, their faces obscured by darkness. They seemed like phantoms, barely there, their presence adding to the eerie atmosphere. They didn't speak, their silence more unnerving than any conversation. The only sounds were the creaking of the bus and the occasional rustle of clothing. As the bus pulled away from the crossroads, Evelyn felt a chill run down her spine. She clutched her coat tighter, trying to ward off the cold that seemed to seep from the very walls of the bus. The world outside the windows was a blur of darkness, the only light coming from the flickering gas lamps that lined the road. Each lamp cast long, wavering shadows, creating an almost hypnotic pattern as they passed by. The road to Haven was long and winding, each turn seemingly leading them deeper into the heart of the unknown. The journey felt endless, the destination a distant hope that seemed to recede with every mile. The bus shuddered to a halt, its arrival in Haven announced by the hiss of escaping air brakes. The sound echoed through the empty streets, a stark contrast to the silence that followed. Stepping out onto the cobblestone street, Evelyn found herself enveloped in an oppressive silence. The air was thick, almost tangible, pressing down on her shoulders as she took cautious steps forward. The town was deserted, buildings looming over the empty streets like watchful giants. Their darkened windows seemed to follow her every move, as if the town itself was alive and observing her. Windows, dark and empty, stared back at her, reflecting the unease that coiled in her gut. Each step she took seemed to echo louder than the last, amplifying the eerie silence that surrounded her. A chill wind whistled through the narrow alleys, carrying with it the faintest hint of decay. The scent was subtle but unmistakable, a reminder of the town's long-abandoned state. The air was heavy with a sense of watchful eyes, unseen presences lurking just beyond the reach of the flickering gas lights. Each flicker seemed to cast new shadows, playing tricks on her mind. Even the shadows seemed to twist and writhe, as if alive with some unseen energy. They danced on the cobblestones, creating an ever-shifting tapestry of darkness that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Drawn by an unseen force, Evelyn found herself at the foot of a crumbling edifice. Its once grand facade was now shrouded in ivy, windows boarded shut like the eyes of a corpse. A rusted sign, barely clinging to its moorings, proclaimed it to be Haven Asylum. The air around the asylum was colder, the silence even more profound. A sense of dread washed over Evelyn, urging her to turn back. But curiosity, like a siren's call, drew her closer. She stepped across the threshold, entering a world of shadows and whispers. The asylum's interior was a labyrinth of dust-choked corridors and decaying rooms. The air hung heavy with the scent of mildew and something else, something akin to forgotten memories and fading sanity. Evelyn wandered through the decaying grandeur, each step echoing in the oppressive silence. In what was once the asylum's administrative office, she discovered a heavy ledger, its leather cover cracked and dry. As she traced the faded ink, names and dates swam before her eyes. Each entry a life lived and lost within these walls, and then she heard it. A whisper, soft and chilling, seeming to emanate from the shadows themselves. They never leave. Panic welled in Evelyn's chest, a cold dread gripping her heart. The whispers grew louder, swirling around her like a vortex of despair. She ran, her footsteps echoing through the empty corridors, each turn leading her deeper into the asylum's labyrinthine heart. But there was no escape. Doors slammed shut before she could reach them, windows refusing to budge. The asylum held her captive, its shadows reaching out like grasping claws. The whispers mocked her fear, their icy tendrils wrapping around her sanity, pulling her down into the abyss. Evelyn collapsed in the center of a room, its walls lined with padded cells, the air thick with the stench of madness. The whispers surrounded her, their voices growing louder, more insistent. She could feel their icy touch on her skin, their insidious tendrils burrowing into her mind. And then, with a sickening clarity, she understood. Haven was not a town, it was a prison, a place where lost souls were trapped, their spirits bound to the shadows, and she, lured by her own demons, had walked willingly into its embrace. The clock chimed midnight as the last bus to Haven slowly pulled away from the town square. Its headlights cut through the perpetual twilight, momentarily illuminating the eerily empty streets. Inside, the shadowy figures remained, their faces obscured in the deep gloom. Evelyn was not among them, her presence noticeably absent. She was gone, swallowed by the shadows, her spirit claimed by the town she could never leave behind. The bus rumbled into the darkness, leaving Haven behind, a silent monument to despair. The cycle was now complete. The whispers had claimed another soul, adding to the town's haunting legacy.